Riders, let's talk about some cool uses for the em dash. Broadly speaking, the em dash represents sort of grammatical anarchy insofar as there aren't really any agreed upon rules governing its usage, especially in creative writing. That said, you often see it in place of things like parentheses, semicolons, colons, and commas. And the reason why authors might use an em dash instead of one of these other punctuation items is that the em dash possesses an enormous amount of rhetorical weight in a sentence, and the items following an em dash or contained therein are afforded a tremendous amount of emphasis. So you want to be thoughtful in how and when you use it, keeping in mind that if you're using em dashes everywhere, this will gradually dilute their power of emphasis. But let's take a look at some instances where I personally love to see an em dash, though keep in mind there are a ton of other usages for it. From Mary Gaitskill's Bad Behavior, we see the em dash bring extra weight to what would otherwise be an ordinary parenthetical. Quote, because once, when I was about 12, I was in my father's study, rubbing his neck. I used to do that all the time for him. Notice how the em dash is used to introduce a parenthetical in which the speaker seems sort of self-conscious about this act of rubbing their father's neck and assures the reader that this was a habitual, normal action. With the weight of the em dash, it comes across quite forcefully, sort of preemptively rebutting the reader's concern or disgust. Let's take a look at James Brinkley's A Lucky Man for another parenthetical usage with the em dash, but in this case, it's a matter of convenience, neatly separating a list that occurs in the middle of the sentence. Quote, each of the names had three letters, S-E-R, E-V-E, R-O-N, R-E-L, M-E-D, and the drips of paint made murky icicles of color. The em dash can also be super effective in indicating interruption in dialogue. Let's take a look at this example from Toni Morrison's Beloved. Quote, it's the house. People don't, it's not the house. It's us, and it's you. Notice how Morrison does not need to add a dialogue tag to indicate the interruption. The em dash is doing that for us. Or let's look at an example from Vladimir Nabokov's Panine for how the em dash can also be used to capture digressions or a frantic state of mind, especially within stream of consciousness. Quote, she wanted Timofey to lay aside every month a little money for the boy, because she could not ask Bernard Maywood now, and she might die, and Eric did not care what happened, and somebody ought to send the lad a small sum now and then, as if coming from his mother. Pocket money, you know. He would be among rich boys. In this case, the thoughts are interjecting amongst themselves, layering on top of each other, producing a sort of anxiety in the grammar that is reflective of several trains of thought all running at once.